What made you this cold? Who shattered the warmth inside you and replaced it with silence? How many nights did you bleed behind a smile while the world laughed? You weren't born this way. You had fire, love, and light. But life doesn't ask if you're ready to suffer. It doesn't care if your heart was kind. It throws you in the fire until you either burn or freeze. And you froze. Now they say you've changed, but they don't understand. This coldness isn't weakness, it's protection. It's survival. It's power. And now, you're untouchable. It didn't begin with violence. It began with a smile, a soft voice, a familiar face. The room was quiet that day. Too quiet. You didn't know the silence was loading a bullet meant for your back. You were standing tall, with your guard down, because you believed in them. You trusted them. And then, snap, reality shattered. They sold you out, exposed your scars, told your secrets like bedtime stories to people who wanted to see you burn. And just like that, everything warm inside you froze. The world didn't go dark. It went cold. The type of cold that doesn't touch the skin. It crushes the soul, like winter crawling through your veins. You didn't cry. You didn't scream. You listened as the sound of betrayal echoed like gunshots in a cathedral. That moment became your origin, not of pain, but of transformation. Your heartbeat slowed, your gaze hardened, and something inside you whispered, "Never again." They thought they destroyed you, but all they did was wake the version of you that doesn't beg, doesn't explain, doesn't trust. Now when people ask, "Why are you like this?" you smile, because they'll never understand that the fire in your chest was killed by someone who promised to protect it. You weren't born cold. Life froze you, and betrayal lit the first storm. No more second chances. No more open doors. You built walls out of the very ice they left behind. And now, you're untouchable. You held the door open. They tried to slam it on you. You gave them your hand. They tried to break your arm. You smiled first. They used that as a reason to spit in your face. You thought kindness was a strength. They saw it as an opening, a soft spot to strike. And they did, again and again, until the light in your chest flickered into something colder, sharper, deadlier. They didn't understand that your silence wasn't weakness. It was restraint. That your forgiveness wasn't stupidity. It was mercy. But mercy has a limit. And the day they crossed it, you changed the weather. The warmth drained from your voice. The softness left your steps. And what replaced it was a version of you they weren't ready for. Not louder, not angrier, just colder and more dangerous. Because when a kind soul stops caring, when a good heart locks its doors, what's left behind is a weapon built from disappointment. They thought you were soft. They thought you were easy to control. They thought you'd always forgive, always bend, always break. But you don't bend anymore. You watch. You wait. You walk away with your silence so loud, it crushes egos. They took your kindness as weakness, and you let them. Because now, they'll never see that kindness again. You weren't born cruel, but you were forced to choose survival over sympathy. And in that choice, you didn't lose yourself. You found your power. They told you to open up, to speak, to feel. But the moment you did, they laughed, called you too emotional, too soft, too weak. You showed vulnerability. They saw it as a crack to crawl through. They say, be human. But when you bleed in front of them, they walk away like your pain is contagious. So, you learned. You stitched your mouth shut, buried your emotions in the silence. Not because you stopped feeling, but because you got tired of being the punchline. The world claps for stoic faces. It praises the ones who feel nothing. So, you adapted. You built a shell. One that doesn't flinch. One that doesn't explain. And now they look at you like you're heartless. But they don't realize they're the reason your heart had to hide. You didn't wake up one day and decide to go numb. It happened over time. Every betrayal, every lie, every silent night spent wondering, why me? It chipped away at you, until pain stopped being something you avoided. It became your uniform, not by desire, by necessity. Because the world doesn't hand out medals for sensitivity. It hands out scars, and you wore yours like armor. Now, every smile you fake, every tear you swallow, isn't weakness. It's proof you survived. So when they call you cold, remember, they never stayed long enough to feel the fire you buried beneath that ice. There was a time you tried to explain yourself, tried to show them your heart, tried to make them understand your silence, your distance, your storms. But they didn't listen. They never cared. So you stopped speaking, stopped justifying, stopped proving. And in that silence, they panicked. Because people don't fear noise. They fear the quiet that holds power. Now, your silence speaks louder than any scream. Your coldness is louder than 1,000 explanations. They wonder what you're thinking. They wonder what you'll do. They wonder how they lost access to you. And that fear, you didn't create it. They did, by thinking they could play with a soul that once tried to love them. The old you was kind, too kind, always forgiving, always hoping. That version of you didn't survive. You buried that soul the day you realized kindness wasn't currency in this world. It was a target. So, you killed the dreamer, the believer, the one who waited for people to change. And from that grave rose someone colder, smarter, stronger. They call it a transformation. You call it survival, because in a world full of predators, you don't get to walk in soft. You don't cry for the old you. because that version wouldn't have lasted another day in this war. Funny, isn't it? They ignored your warmth. They mocked your softness. They took advantage of your loyalty. But now that you've gone silent, now that your smile is gone, now that your heart is locked behind walls of ice, they say you've changed. They miss the version of you they broke. They crave the softness they once crushed. But you're not going back, because going back would mean reopening wounds they never helped heal. You didn't become cold overnight. You became cold because you had no choice. And now, the same people who triggered your freeze complain about the frostbite. But it's too late. You're not bitter. You're not cruel. You're just done.